Hello and welcome back. Before we move on to the next section, I think it's a good idea for us to just stop and slow way down and take a look critically at our own code and see if there are ways that we can improve it, ways that we can refactor our code to be more efficient or more maintainable. And so it's a good opportunity. I'm not saying that I'm going to catch everything, and I'm sure as we go, or even as I was typing, you guys are like, why are you doing it that way? There's much better ways to do it. And you're right. And sometimes for me, it's about just getting the code down and making sure it works. Get my main ideas down as a rough draft. And then I go back in the end and I try to clean it up. And sometimes I get lazy and I don't do this. And I always regret it. And so I will encourage you guys as you're developing to every now and then just stop. Every time you finish a major idea or something and before you move on to another idea, just take a minute and maybe come back a second day or go for a slight walk or do something to clear your mind from the way that you had been thinking about your code. And then come back and look at your code and ask yourself a few questions. One, is this code readable? Two, is this code efficient? Will this code work with heavy stress levels? I mean, if we throw a lot of information at it or a lot of data, if there are a lot of records in the database, what's going to happen with this code? So look at performance issues and see if there's a way that you can make it have better performance. And then two, are there just things that you can do to clean it up and maybe extract functionality out of a big long method or function and bust that up into a few smaller functions so that you can reuse parts of those code later without rewriting part of that. And then also, yeah, take a look and see if you have repeated yourself anywhere. And if you have, that's a great opportunity to create a function or a method, because you want to do your best to not repeat yourself. There's a really good acronym that people say, and it's called DRY. So you want to have dry code, and that just means don't repeat yourself. And there's a couple reasons for that. You don't want to repeat yourself because if you go to update something, the code lives in two different places, and so you have to update logic in multiple places. And if you don't, generally it causes some sort of bug. Two, it makes it hard to know where to update something. And so it really just opens you up for a lot of issues and headaches when you're trying to maintain code. So that is the idea. So as we go through this, hopefully we can see opportunities for us to refactor along the way and make it even better. So what I want to focus on right now in this video really quickly is just two of our files. And if you look at the index.php file so far, and you look at the bootstrap file, this bootstrap file, I've kind of determined that we don't really need it. And I generally like keeping files small and separated, but here's what I'm thinking. We used this kind of outdated autoload magic method that PHP gave us, and there's a better one to use. And the thing about it is, though, is that the better one to use, we really want to call that before we call session start, because it could give us some issues. So what I want to do is right here, let's just kind of grab this autoload, this whole autoload section here. And in fact, let's grab all of this except for our router for the moment. And let's just get that out of there. And right after we define root here, I'm just going to paste this. So we're still going to go ahead and, I want to go ahead and load our config file and our helpers. And then we're going to autoload our classes. But let's go ahead and this autoload function right here, let's just change the name of this. And I'm just going to get rid of the 2 underscores and just call it autoload maybe. That's fine. And then after this function, what we're going to do is we're going to use a newer base function from PHP, and it's SPL, okay? And that stands for standard PHP library autoload underscore register, okay? And what this is going to do is it's going to take a function, and the function, you can just pass it as a string. So we're just going to say autoload. And so what it's going to do is look for this function. You could also pass an anonymous function in here and not name this and just pass this in here, and it'll work just the same. But I think I'm going to leave it like this just to make sure our function is kind of living outside of this, a little more readable in my opinion. And then what I want to do is, like I said, that we want that to happen before our sessions start. And so what I want to do is just go ahead and grab session start and throw it in underneath our autoload. Alright, so then what's left in our bootstrap file is just one method call. And so it doesn't really make much sense to leave that in a separate file at this point. So let's just go and grab our index file again, and we have our URL, and right here where we're requiring in our bootstrap, we really just need to route the request. So now it's pretty much the exact same code except we're using an updated PHP autoloader, and we've kind of gotten rid of the need for this bootstrap.php file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and close that, and then I'm going to delete that bootstrap file. Okay. So it's important before we move on to the next video or to writing more code is we need to make sure that the application still works, that I didn't just break it. So let's go ahead and just, visit some of the, let's just go ahead and visit what we've already done and just see what happens. So let's see, we had our tools. Let's try third. Yep, that works. And so it looks like as of right now, there really isn't any downside to doing this. Our classes are still loading, obviously, because the application's working. We didn't break anything. And now it's just a little cleaner. We have one file in our index. And then what we could use our core folder for is just mainly is probably going to be all classes instead of that random PHP file inside of the core. So the rest of these should probably all be classes, and then the application just be a little smoother, and we're using a little bit more of an updated function there. And so I just thought we'd take a second to clean that up, and there's probably even more that we could do, but let's just continue on with the application, and we'll probably do more refactoring later. So I hope that's helpful, and I'll see you in the next video.